Right, that's the main thing. Look, see my new room.
I have seen a new room. I like the fish on the in
Oh,
the
I
background there.
made that. Yes, I
Very
made
good.
that in my paid over my pottery thingies. Anyway, it's not about me. So, uh, shut up for a bit. Oh, I did a fade. That was pretty good. Right. Better put it back up for the next one. So, Darrell, sorry, the audience doesn't know you're here. Hello, folks. It's Mikey here. Welcome to Desert Island Disco. This is a new innovation, and this will be the last episode for sure because it's too much work. I'm never doing it again. Anyhow, our special guest today. Oh, I don't have to say this because Snoop Dogg's going to say it. This is my surprise, Darrell.
I can't hear what Snoop Dogg's saying, so I'll have to listen to the episode, won't I? That's bad. I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Can you actually hear it?
No,
You can't hear it. Did you
no,
hear the music?
no. I just saw you
Ooh,
swaying like an idiot.
right. So we have to adapt. This is problem solving on the. I did actually uh, try testing this out, but I never actually downloaded the recordings to listen to whether they worked. But the intention was there, so I'll give myself lots of points for that.
Well done.
So I've got to find Spotify. Oh God, first track's not even on here. Find the playlist. Oh, here we go. This is good. All right, start again. Can you hear that, Darrell?
No.
Oh, it's interesting. Right, find the music. Well, I can pretend there's music, okay? I'll put it later.
Okay. Pretend there's music.
Right, makes life easier. Right, I'll read the introduction, but I'm going to get an AI girl to read it in truth. So, right. So, hello, folks. Mikey here. Welcome to Danger Mouse, first Desert Island Disco, and last one, because it's such a pain in the ass to do. I'm never going to do it again. So, anyway, those not familiar with Desert Island Disc, it's a very long running program since the 40s, I think, on BBC Radio 4. And it's currently presented by the lovely Laura Laverne. So you can just think of me as Laura Laverne with a beard. So our guest today is the man, specifically Professor Darrell Mann, educator, inventor, author, practical philosopher, and prophet, spelt with an E. The trouble with being a prophet is that if the message involves hard work rather than an instant sugar rush, if it involves real change, the crowd tends to melt away and get right back to going around in circles. Darrell has dedicated much of his life to thinking of cool questions, which in itself is pretty extraordinary. However, he didn't stop there. Having found a superb question, he had an unquenchable desire to find uncompromising answers. Inspired by the rare and often obscure innovation pioneers, Darrell grasped the insight that successful innovation can be codified and with sufficient practice become an impressive skill. A talent that when you see him in action is a bit like magic. The experience of applying his expanding innovation framework in many domains all over the world led to the realization that solving technical problems is child's play compared to tackling the complex systems and human factors that are often the biggest hurdles to positive change. Today, Darrell seeks out the real hard problems, applying a level of gumption that is a tribute to one of his heroes, Robert Pirsig, author of Zen, the Art of Motorcycling. Welcome, Darrell.
Welcome, AI person.
Yes, so Darrell was born in Bradford in 1962 to parents Derek and Joan, and Derek was originally an electrician like my dad, but he went to school to learn the evil craft of marketing, and that led him to be
people.
Led him to be the CEO of a major company, which is quite a journey, a hero's journey, in fact.
It is a hero's journey, I think. Yeah.
So, Darrell, take us back to your early days. What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory, oh my goodness me, it's probably either playing in a sandpit or um, playing with a piece of furniture and being really intrigued by all the holes in it and discovering woodworm.
Ah, so you were already setting out your problem-solving journey.
Yes, I did. I think I distinctly remember my mother panicking at the presence of woodworm in this piece of furniture that had just been acquired.
Well, I bet you did. Yes. So, would you describe your childhood as a happy one?
Yes, it was. Yes, I think I was always very inquisitive and always inventing games and changing the rules of games. And I think
Aha, yes.
that kind of set in motion a whole life of let's break all the rules and find better ones.
So, how well did that sort of attitude go down at school?
It was okay. I think I was always a little bit not quite in the middle of things. Um, but I could make people laugh sometimes. So being the class clown, and I could always help people with their homework.
Ah, okay. So that stopped you getting beat up, did it?
Mostly, yeah.
Right. This is a family show, so we won't go into that.
I always say that I've never started a fight in my life, but I've finished a few.
Oh, that sounds very kind of Sylvester Stallone, Darrell. I didn't realise you had that side to you.
I try and avoid it. I think, yeah, growing up in the north and especially going to seaside towns was a good way of getting into a fight, I think.
Oh,
So I've got, yeah, for some reason, school trips to Blackpool. Every time I go to Blackpool, there's going to be a fight.
so was it a team activity?
No, I think we were just innocent, gullible Bradfordians thrown into this epic world of Blackpool, and yeah, obviously look like troublemakers, and yeah, always seem to attract trouble.
Right, we better swiftly move on from this because we're giving a bad impression of our country, Darrell. So when you had some rather unusual reading material for a child of your age, is that fair
I
to
did.
say?
Yeah, it is. It's totally bizarre when I look back. Yeah, I think I was reading Edward de Bono books when I was probably 10 years old. And another one that sticks in my mind because my dad had been using it on his. I'm going to guess it was. I never asked him, but I'm going to guess it was on his part of his marketing thing, which was Eric Burns' Games People Play.
Right, so I used to read these from cover to cover.
Yes, yeah, and I think the Edward de Bono books. I was introduced to the concept of library when I was probably about 8 years old, and so yeah, took out a book and got a free book, and then you read it overnight, and then you go back to the library the next day, and here's another one. And I was up, yeah, by that time a series of Edward de Bono books. So yeah, I literally just read them one after the other.
So just recap for the listener, what age were you?
I was probably about 10.
10.
Yeah,
And did that kind of set you off seeking for other books of that nature, or did you revert to a more standard kind of pattern?
No, I think I've always read slightly non-fictiony things. So these days I try and alternate between fiction and non-fiction. But I must admit there's more non-fiction that I look forward to reading than fiction.
Yes. Okay. And how about music? Were you into music from a very early age as well?
I was, yeah, mainly because of my dad's sister's record collection. So she left home, and every Sunday we used to go to my grandma's house, and I had nothing to do other than look at these Elvis Presley records and Beatles records. So yeah, I was always fascinated by records from an early age, and then usual Sunday evening thing, listening to the charts on the radio.
Yeah, yeah, that is a British institution actually,
I
or used
think
to
it
be.
is. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it is.
yeah. So, what about siblings? I haven't asked about.
A younger sister, so there's 5.5 years between us, which I think is a good
Quite a
thing.
gap. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, unusual, but yeah, good. So I was already at school when she was arrived on the scene.
Right. So, were you very protective of her as a big brother, or
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
because it's
Yeah,
very
I was.
easy to move in totally separate social
Yeah, I
circles
mean,
and not have
I think
much
with
to do with each
yeah,
other.
I think with the 5 years, then whenever I'd um left the school, that's when Melissa arrived. So we were never in the same building at school.
Right, which is probably a blessing for her, I guess. You don't like
Yes,
your older siblings knocking around, do you?
yes, absolutely. Especially as how uncool I was.
So, uh, what was the first record you bought, and what gave you the funds to do it?
I washing cars was the funding. So yeah, that was my dad's way of saying you've got to earn the pocket money. So washing his car usually, and it was Elton John, Crocodile Rock.
So, are you still a big Elton fan?
Not massive, but I did see him live at Eden Project down where you are, and that was probably what 5 years ago, and it was pretty good, I have to say. He puts on a damn good show.
He's good live.
He
Okay.
is good live, yeah.
And did you were you reading kind of magazines like pop magazines, NME and that kind of thing?
I can't remember what the occasion was. I used to go on train spotting trips, which is probably not the great thing to admit to, is it? But I remember coming back from a train spotting trip somewhere, and somebody had discarded a copy of New Musical Express. This is probably 76, and just at the beginning of punk. And so that was just revolutionary, seeing that newspaper and and finding out about all these cool bands and this revolution that was taking place. And I think, that was very formative. So, I became a weekly reader of NME.
Which is the kind of highbrow, uh, yeah, end of
It's
the.
it's the cool one. Yeah, I mean, at the time, there were loads of these weekly, music papers, Medley Maker, Sounds, etc. But I think NME was the cool one.
Yeah, I used to
Used,
get
used,
smash hits because they had good pictures, Darrell.
yes, posters on your bedroom wall, right?
I did, yes. Uh, so would your friends have described you as uh, a music nutter at that stage?
I think all my friends were musical, so it was one of those things where it was a competition to see who could grab the best bands for themselves. So at the time, so first started buying albums, probably 1975. So and it was very much a prog thing. So I got Deep Purple and Yes, and my best friend got Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin, and so it became this big wall where you couldn't cross into somebody else's because that was their band. But I got Deep Purple and Yes.
But it's about setting out your own kind of personality through
I
the music you
yeah
liked.
yeah I think so. And but then I I very quickly um, got an enemy encyclopedia, which told me that no, you've got the wrong bands there. You should be listening to Little Feat, and you should be listening to Steely Dan.
That that explains why when I first encountered you in Rolls Royce, you were wearing a Little Feet jacket.
Which I embroidered myself. Yeah, just to look exactly like Lowell George's version of the same jacket.
'Cause- So 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 looking back with the wisdom of all your years, what do you think of Little Feet these days?
I think I never saw Little Feat when they had Lowell George, so he was my absolute hero, and probably still is. I think he's the best guitarist and singer and songwriter ever. So he died in '79, and so I'd never seen the band by then, but I was absolutely obsessed with him. And if there's ever been a musician that you say, okay, I want to be like that guy, it's probably Lovell George. So I think with all the stuff that he did with them, I think is still stands up today, still play it a lot today. All the stuff that happened afterwards is good because I mean they're a band of great musicians, but it just doesn't got that spark anymore. And I think he was the genius. I think he was the person that could take a fairly ordinary song and just transform it into something that was timeless, always interesting.
So is that when you got into sort of being an NME journalist yourself and writing things?
I did in a very early days decide I was going to write a that effectively it was the Wikipedia of albums. So I was going to write reviews of every album ever, and I probably wrote about 2,000 of them.
Wow, that is a lot.
It's madness really when I look back, and I mean I've never published any of it. It's really weird. It's probably on some 5.25 inch disc somewhere.
So you must have spent like a lot of weekends doing that.
I spent a lot of time. Yeah, I think my music is probably my biggest love. I would say. Sometimes I think I love it too much. But yeah, going to gigs, listening to albums, always music on. So from a very early age, I learned to work with music on to the point where almost can't work without music on.
So you actually hear it when you're thinking.
So sometimes I zone it out, so it's kind of there but not there, which is a kind of quite interesting. So there are certain types of music that I can't listen to when I'm working, but other types. So I listen to a lot of jazz, for example, when I'm working.
Right, because you can
So you,
switch in and out of that.
yeah,
Okay. So so when did you actually when did you start seeing live bands? Was that
I
a
was allowed
momentous
to. I was
occasion?
allowed to go Bradford St George's Hall. I think it was 1977, and it was Dr. Feelgood supported by Mink DeVille. And Mink DeVille, I still love. In fact, they came on first, obviously support band, and the first live experience ever. And it's like this is amazing. So we're all saying fuck off, Dr. Feelgood at the end of the Mink DeVille set. It's like nothing can get as good as this ever again. And then Dr. Feelgood, of course, they were really good. And so it's like this enormous baptism of again a whole new world. And so I still go to lots of gigs.
So Dr. Feelgood what managed to win the audience over in the end, did they?
They did. I mean, everybody had bought tickets to go and see Dr. Feelgood, and I think nobody had heard of Mink DeVille at the time, although they'd just had a hit single. So I suspect that you bought the ticket, and between buying the ticket and the concert, Mink DeVille kind of appeared on the scene.
Right, climbed up the attention ladder.
Yeah, but
So
Dr.
I think
Feelgood
this
were
this
certainly the
brings
band.
us to an opportune moment for introducing your first pick, which is Man from Mars. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Well, I was determined because we both love Joni Mitchell to try and find something by Joni Mitchell. But much as I love her music, I couldn't find anything that was going to go in my desert island. So, "Man from Oz" is a song that she wrote, but she wrote it, I think, initially for a soundtrack album. So it gets sung by Kristen Vigard in Grace of My Heart. And I think I don't know whether it's an ego thing, but I just love the idea of woman singing to man, yeah, you are a man from Mars. So yeah, in my more deluded moments, I am the man from Mars. And when I learned, reading a Joni Mitchell interview some years after, it's about her cat. It was like, okay, fantastic, that's it now. I am man from Mars, but I think it's the soundtrack version with Kristen Vigard is just an amazing version of the song. I think she sings it really well, and yeah, I think when Joni Mitchell eventually recorded it, it, um, she didn't capture it back, so it's the soundtrack version. It's the winner, I think.
Right. Okay. So we'll now hear a little excerpt of that. La la la, man from Mars. Blah blah. End of excerpt. There we go.
Is that a way around the copyright law? You're going to sing the.
Anyway, right. Let's crack on. So, in 1980, you joined Rolls-Royce, so that was quite an event. So, how did that come about?
It came about by accident. So I was looking to be sponsored to go to university, and I wanted to fly. So fly to the Air Force, didn't get in. Fly to the Navy, and I did get in, but they wouldn't pay for me to go to university, so that was out. So then Rolls-Royce was the next best thing. So I applied there, and I have a vague memory of an interview, and then heard nothing. And eventually, I think it was just coming up to deciding which university we're going to go to. So we've got our A-level results. Phone call comes in from Rolls-Royce, which basically said we take on 10 people every year. You were number 11, Darrell, but number 10's dropped out, or one person from the top 10's dropped out. So would you like their place? So I arrived at North London, where we both started on the same day, didn't we? Although I arrived late. And yeah, I arrived knowing that I was the runt of the litter because I was literally 11th on a list of 10.
So you were, no doubt intimidated by this suave character you met.
Well, exactly. I was intimidated by everybody in the room because I knew that I was the worst person there. And even more troubling was the fact that it was the first time I'd really spent any time outside Yorkshire. So I'm conscious that nobody can understand a word that I'm saying.
So what would you describe yourself? How would you describe yourself at that age?
I think I very quickly realised very immature for my age. So yeah, so literally just thrown into this adult world, no idea what was going on. But I think that was part of the Rolls-Royce way of doing things, just throw people at the deep end and either sink or they swim. So yeah, fortunately, I realised that these other 9 people, or I think they were graduates as well, so they were even more intimidating. But yeah, they were just normal humans the same.
Yeah, yeah. So not too traumatic after the first few days.
No, I think there was we did the apprenticeship and you get sent on the various different sections. So I was very lucky because one of the tutors, I can't remember his name now, but he was brutal. He was the guy that had the hairpiece, and he was absolutely brutal. But he was from Yorkshire, so
So he took you out as a favourite then.
he took me on as yeah. So even though I made some pretty dumb mistakes, he was kind of lenient with me and said, "Look, yeah, don't do it like that. Do it like this." So I definitely benefited from his help. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I seem to have a real knack for sheet metal and making toolboxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember making the toolbox. Have you
Yes,
still got it?
I've still got my toolbox, and I'm still quite proud of it. Actually, and I think I got 100 out of 100 on my assessment for that. So it's a work of art.
Yes. Uh, I'm not big on things, so it got a bit rusty and I threw it away. I'm not very sentimental, about stuff like that. About anything really. And interestingly, I've got pretty much total the opposite of total recall when it comes to anything longer than a month ago. So you can say what the hell you like about what I did. It's like hearing it. It's
Well,
like, oh, did I really do that stuff?
I think what you very quickly became famous for was film reviews, which felt like they were longer than the actual films themselves. So I went to the pictures last night. Oh, what did you see, Mike? And then
But
then
it sort of
then
comes back. I was just enthusiastic and a great storyteller. And my memory must have been working at that stage.
well, yes, it feels like you've remembered every second of every movie. And so I think everybody became very quickly reluctant to ask you about the movies that you'd seen.
Yes, well, that explains to this day why people try to avoid me when I'm coming along. But anyway, uh, you're also impressed by my car as well, I hear.
I was impressed by your car. I think the bravery that you showed driving the car to work. So you took a week off from my memory to respray your car. So it was a big ego thing to be able to maintain your own car and soup up your own car. And you turned up with this green Cortina, this bright green Cortina, which from a distance looked fantastic. And then you walked up to it and you realised there's something not quite right here. And I think you'd hand painted it in the end. I think you tried to spray paint the vehicle, but that
Yeah,
wasn't working.
I did my usual trick of scrimping on money. Well, didn't have much at the time, and bought this. But I finished the job. I finished the job,
You
Darrell.
did finish the job, yes. You hand painted a vehicle, which with paint that definitely wasn't designed to be brushed onto the vehicle, so it had all the paint marks in it. And I think you made your fame at that point. Uh,
I love that car. I love that car. It looked really cool in photographs. So anyway, this is all about you. So you were getting a regular paycheck. So what did you do with it?
I very quickly bought a guitar, um, and it wasn't a very good guitar, so I didn't really get on with it very well. But um, when I got to university and it was still punkish time, it was good enough to play very briefly in a punk band.
Oh, I was going to ask. So you weren't tempted to join a band
It was a very short lived
At
thing.
school.
No, at school, no, not at all. I think it was. I think music at school was very uncool. Going to gigs and buying records was cool. And then the sixth form common room had a record player. So then there was kind of like a battle for could get to that record player first to put on their latest album that was
Well,
going to impress everybody else with.
I remember War of the Worlds being on all the time in sixth form. I know that was a thing in Bradford.
No, not really. No, I think it was. So I think Meatloaf was probably the closest
Oh
to
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was at all the parties and yeah. And I would say that the women loved that for some reason, but also Supertramp.
Oh, I
And
love
then
Supertramp. Yeah, yeah.
it was a battle with then the prog boys. But then when we got to upper six and the lower six came in, there'd been another musical revolution, and it was all ska and two tone. So then the battle was really a bizarre one. So you'd be having Selector and specials one day, and then it'd be Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull the next day.
But it was. I mean, looking back on it, it was an amazing kind of outpouring of creativity,
Yeah,
and there's been nothing like it since.
yeah, I think you're right. I
The,
think again, looking back, we're really lucky to grow up and come of age in that period when there was just so much happening. And I think the punk was this revolution that washed through everything, but it also made some of the older bands step up and produce some of their best music, I think.
so yeah, it was very interesting, and music was kind of dominating the culture in a way that it doesn't really do today.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, everybody's listening to music, is talking about music. Yeah, the fact that yeah, in the UK it sustained multiple music papers, weekly papers, tells you
But
something
it
about that.
but it was also because of many fewer media channels. There used to be a program on Top of the Pops, which would be on I don't know what day, middle of the
Thursday nights.
evening, and the whole family used to watch that. Did you
Yeah,
have that?
yeah,
And you
definitely. I
get
think yeah. So yeah, Dad particularly, yeah, saying how everything was rubbish, which
yes,
then
yes, exactly.
just makes you even more attracted to whatever he declared was rubbish.
But and again it used to bring the generations together in a way that I suppose there's probably some televisions, but it doesn't have the same kind of I don't know uh, uh, something that kind of pushes that what's the word I'm looking for, kind of divide between them as well. You know, to get a bit of
Yeah,
tension going.
yeah. I think everything's too easy today. So I think there's another part of the attraction was that yeah, you really had to search for some of these things, and so yeah, that those dividing lines, as you say, between generations, that was important. But also being able to find stuff that yeah that nobody else in your group had heard of before,
Oh yeah, yeah,
uh, and
absolutely.
and yeah, scouring through record shops, yeah, was just a yeah great thing.
So that brings us on to your second selection. So the van. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, so I think I think since probably 1985, been a massive fan of Van Morrison, and it's weird because we were talking about punk, and so this track that I've chosen is from the 1980 album, and it got absolutely panned by the reviewers at the time. Very indulgent record, so yeah, long songs on it. Um, and I didn't have the record at the time, but I saw him for the first time in concert in 1985. Went into central London, Dominion Theatre, and saw him, and I thought he was amazing. And ironically, he was promoting what I think is his worst album, but really good live set. And this song, "Summertime in England," is like the centerpiece of the set. It's this big transcendent piece of music, and a beautiful call and response between him and TV Ellis, which yeah, really just take things to the next level. So it's a big long piece of music. I think it's 18 minutes
Wow.
on the album, and yeah, I mean I've seen him play the song yeah many times. I've seen him probably 10 times, and yeah, that song's always a standout. I would say, and I keep wishing that he'd go back to do some of that longer, stretched out stuff, but probably too old and was too hurt by the criticism at the time. Um, and I think also he's one of these grumpy old men that's and sometimes I see him, he is transcendent, I would say, or there are moments of transcendence, and other times he's just not interested at all. And it's yes, it's some of my best concerts are him. Some of my worst concerts are also him.
So would you say he was an innovator?
I think so. Yes, I think I mean he's Celtic soul. Yeah, so I think his prime years were early 70s, or the first set of prime years were early 70s, and so Celtic soul, I think was that amalgam of yeah yeah Irish music with rock and roll, R&B, and
So that's why he's so grumpy because innovators don't get good press often.
yeah, I mean, I think ironically, whenever he's had good press, it's tended to be when he's kind of coasting. I think, and it's when he's breaking boundaries that people
Yes.
don't tend to get it.
So when he's
And
serving people up with what they expect, they're happy. In other
yeah,
words.
yeah. So if you, I mean, you look back on the other, so the album, Common One, which is the where Summertime in England comes from, so absolutely panned by reviewers. Um, but yeah, came out yeah at a time of great turbulence, and I think it was like yeah, he said, I just don't care what everybody else is doing. I'm just going to do this, and it's literally the opposite of what everybody else is doing. Yeah, long, stretched out, some would say indulgent songs, but very much with that idea of transcendence in mind, and that ordinary. I'm going to do the opposite of what the record companies told me to do. I'm going to do the opposite of what all the fans are telling me they want. Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm going to do what I want to do.
So let's have a listen. Do, 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 do. Have a listen. There we go. So, Darrell, having survived an entire year at Rolls-Royce, and presumably saved up a bit of money, you set off back up north to Nottingham.
I did.
So, how
Yeah.
did that go?
I enjoyed it. I think it's there's this. I don't know if you experienced it when you went to Southampton, yeah. But being a year older, so taking a year out, seeing the real world or the Rolls Royce version of it, and then being surrounded by other engineering students who are now a year younger than you, and I think that was just great because you knew what you wanted to know, whereas I think those are people that come straight from school were just there. And I don't think they knew what they wanted. In some cases, I don't think they knew why they were there either. Whereas I think I had a very clear understanding of what I wanted to learn and where I was trying to get to. So that was great. One of the reasons I chose Nottingham is at the time, I'm not sure whether it's still true, but at the time, it's one of the few cities in the country where there were more women than men, and that seemed quite important at the time.
Well, so I didn't have a clue what to do. So it's quite interesting that you kind of picked it up. But I went to Southampton because it was by the sea. I thought it was good for canoeing. Although, no, I think I didn't want it wasn't canoeing so much. I just wanted to be by the seaside. That was it. And I quickly found that all the engineering students, on the whole, were pretty damn boring. And I got on with all these right-wing politics and economics students, with just a great laugh, and they're all from kind of public schools, so that was quite novel. So
Blimey. Yeah,
yeah,
so I didn't mix with engineers very much either. So my best friends, one was doing philosophy and the other was doing archaeology. So it was, we were a pretty motley crew, I would say. And yeah, I mean, if I look at my lecture load compared to theirs, it's like this just isn't fair because I was probably doing 30 hours a week and they were doing perhaps six. And yeah, Colin, who did the philosophy, he um, got to doing his dissertation right at the end, and as far as I could tell, most of that involved going to watch Star Wars, and then coming back and writing streams of consciousness words about something I've got no idea what, but he got a degree from it, so I guess it worked.
did he do good reviews, though, Darrell, of Star Wars, like I would have done? So
No, no, he had the foresight to recognise that nobody else was interested in Star Wars.
so did you enjoy it though?
I did. Yes, I did. It was. I loved the freedom. Yeah, and I guess also the discipline as well. So it would. I think you very quickly learn that okay, no, if I don't get up in the morning, nobody's going to shout at me. I can do whatever I want. But getting up anyway. Um, I think I enjoyed that, and I did it kind of the easy way because we stayed in halls for all 3 years rather than going out and renting a flat or a house or something. So in that sense, it was all pretty easy. So you never had to worry about food and stuff. You just turned up at 6 o'clock for dinner.
Right. So you're. I mean, there's the cliche about the engineering students doing many hours of lectures, where all the art students were kind of, you know, they didn't go out of bed, until after 12 o'clock, and that kind of, and we can't really blame the entire education system on it, but culturally, that's a big wedge that gets between the science and the arts that I think it's taken me about 40 years to recover from.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I love the Persig book, because it's kind of trying to marry those two worlds back together again. The arts and the mythos and the sciences, the rationality of things.
So the other key thing about your time at Nottingham University is that's where you met your partner, your long-term partner.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and yeah, I think the first time we met, I probably drunk. I was with these two, the philosopher and the archaeologist, um, climbing through the window of one of the women's halls. Um, I think because one of them fancied this girl, and I was just along for the ride because climbing through the hall, uh, through the window in women's halls sounded like a good idea at the time.
It
But
was. I think it's hard for the younger generations to understand because we still had the quite strict male female segregation
there were, I
in
think,
some of the halls, not all
yeah,
of
not
them.
yeah, Nottingham. There was probably a third. So a third were all male, a third were all
Yeah,
female,
yeah.
and then a third were mixed.
So I think that the parents were less confident in the self control of their children.
Yeah, well,
We
if they
put
could
them
have seen the CCTV footage of us climbing through the windows of women's toilet, probably with good reason.
Yes, there's many lessons there. We won't go into it now. So having successfully graduated from university in with flying colours, you went back to engineering, went back to Rolls-Royce. You stayed the course, unlike me, who
Yeah,
fled
well,
back to university as soon as
yeah, not
I could.
not many
So
attend. Good. Yeah.
so what kept you there?
Uh, Good question. I think I'd fallen in love with computing by then, so engineering computing.
Did that
Um,
happen at university?
it did, yeah. And I loved systems engineering. I loved the logic of yeah, computer programming. And at the time, it seemed like yeah, here's the future. So you know, back in the days of Fortran, and I think that Nottingham the computers were all punch cards. So you're walking around with a stack of punch cards,
You're
and yeah,
joking.
no, it's
What a crap university. I was taught Pascal
yeah, no,
in
Fortran.
Southampton on a proper supercomputer on terminals who we had to book to go to see.
No, we were on punch cards
Blimey.
for a while. Yeah,
And that
and
that didn't
then
put you off.
no, I say I love the discipline, and you only need to drop one of those decks of cards once, and you're not going to do it again. Uh, no, I say I love the discipline, and yeah, that was computing was the future for me. So
Well, I remember that there were tales of people down in the basement where the computer was, and all they were doing basically was changing the tapes on the computers, and they were getting paid more than anyone else in the building. What a ridiculous time.
yes, well, there was a money element to this, but I'd say I love the logic and yeah, being able to design an engine digitally, for example. So I
But did it
fairly
also give you an advantage over older colleagues who were probably struggling with these newer things? So youth was an advantage.
yeah, oh, very definitely, yeah, because it's I mean the first job I got was it was originally called math services, but then it became engineering
Wow.
computing, and it was like whenever um, any of the engineers had a difficult mathematical problem, they used to come to this department. So that meant they came and said, "Oh, can you write a little computer program that will do this for me?" So you get very quickly get to see lots of different parts of the engine and yeah, different departments because they've all got these problems that they don't know how to solve and they're intimidated by computers.
Oh, so
And
so right away you've got an environment where it's kind of cross-cutting and you're starting to see a big picture.
yeah, I mean, looking back on it, yeah, very much so because it's yeah, writing software that were designing different bits of the engine. So you, I think it felt like very often you were the only person that could connect this bit to this bit because nobody else was doing that because it was so siloed. And I remember there's probably one engineer that I really respected, and he designed a whole engine by himself. And I was doing some of the computer modeling of that thing that he designed. But you could see beyond that person. it was very definitely silos, and people didn't understand what the people in that part of the engine were doing. And it's
So
amazing
so
that they
that
connect
that that
together.
was a very crucial experience.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I I got a very low boredom threshold. So after about 18 months of doing it, I felt like, okay, well, I kind of know this now. And perhaps the
Right.
future isn't computing. Perhaps the future is thinking about systems and designing the whole thing.
Okay. So that gives you a flavour that you were thinking bigger than a lot of people already. By the way, I left a job because they tried to make me bloody do Pascal, Fortran after I've been doing Pascal. I
It's
wasn't
not
going. I
that
wasn't
bad.
going to sink to that level.
I've still got some
So,
of the printouts of my old code, and I can still follow the logic on it.
but well, yeah. That's why you've got such a big house. That is garbage. It's all thrown away. All my notes thrown away. I don't remember
You
them.
never
I
know
don't
when you
want to
might need
remember
it.
them. So, one of the things that I'm really jealous of is that somebody somewhere at Rolls Royce told you that when it comes to theories and things, it's what matters is whether they're useful, not whether they're correct. Is that more or less
Yeah,
what you were told?
yeah. All theories are wrong, but some are useful. Yeah, I think there were several things that got drummed into your head at Rolls Royce. That was definitely one of them.
Oh, so that wasn't what the one wise person. That was a cultural thing.
Yeah, I think it was. I think there were certain key figures I would say. Yeah, next generation older than us. So another one that really sticks in my head is the customer wants the benefits. They're not interested in all the clever stuff you've done. What's the benefit you're giving to the customer? And that really sticks with you.
Right, because I always kind of downplay Rolls Royce as a leading company, mainly because they let me in. And because I didn't have the same capacity for you for picking up on these things, mainly because I buggered off early. Right. So quickly moving on, let's go to the next track, Darrell, which is this surprised me. Talk Talk. You like them?
I do. I think particularly from the fourth album onwards. So yeah, that's the track that I've chosen is from Spirit of Eden, which was another of those. How do you piss off the record company? Let's do the exact opposite of what we've been told to do. So they're a band that's kind of poppy band, and then say, nah, we ain't going to do that no more. So the Rainbow in the original release of the album is 23 minutes. It's the whole of the first side of the album. It's this amazing improvisation and yeah, sitting in darkened rooms, playing stuff for an hour and then editing it all together. So very, I think transcendent again. I think, but also that's deliberate. Let's reinvent music.
Right. So when you're listening to this stuff, are you taking illegal substances by any chance?
No, almost never.
Oh, well, just checking. Uh, so here is from Talk Talk, the rainbow. Do, rainbow, 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 end of story. So you were starting to get a bit bored at Rolls Royce. Uh, and does that coincide with you encountering a Russian inventive technique with the acronym
Well,
TRIZ?
I mean, it's the certainly a connection there. So I think my low boredom threshold meant that I was a very restless soul inside the company. So I kept moving around, and you've got to fight the system to do that because the system wants you to stay in one department and become an expert in one thing. And I definitely wasn't going to do that. So I moved around several times and developed a fascination for America. So yeah, all my favorite music, that's where it was coming from. So how do
Yeah.
I get over there? And
Ah,
Rolls-Royce had an office in Atlanta at the time. So I got to go and set up a couple of American projects. And the Atlanta office, their job was to try and find cool stuff that's happening in America that we can deploy back in the UK.
Oh, really?
And
That is very forward thinking. Yeah. So
yeah, it
that's the
was a
kind
very,
of
yeah.
that is a form of horizontal thinking in terms of were
It
they looking
was,
just at
yeah.
the aircraft sector
No,
or
no,
across
I
the
think they were
board?
just, I think they were just desperately trying to find stuff that the people in the UK would find interesting enough to keep paying them to
So
keep
they had
looking.
skin in the game, yes.
They had some genuine skin in the game, and I think one of these interesting things they found was um, the Iron Curtain had come down, so a lot of the original RIS researchers in the Soviet Union had decided, oh, like, we can go now, we can go wherever we want. So quite a lot of them came to America and set up RIS consulting companies and software companies. And the first thing I saw was one of these weekly bulletins from Atlanta that said 40 invented principles, and at that time
Wow.
that was like red rag to a bull. It's like, how can there only be 40 principles? Um, and
Yeah,
Rolls
yeah.
Royce being what it was, and me being in the position that I was by then, we could say, okay, well, okay, let's just prove these people wrong. And so we
So
spent,
what position were you in at the time?
by then I was section leader, and I'm just about made it to assistant chief engineer.
Right. So that's one of the top three or four people on the engineering side of it, yeah?
I mean, it's a strange structure. So when you talk about chief engineer, you feel like, okay, there's only going to be one, but there were several chief engineers in the company. So I was, chief engineer for basically things that landed vertically.
Okay,
So head of,
so how did you go about trying to prove that there were more than 40 principles of invention?
we said, okay, let's look at all of the great things we've invented ourselves and reverse engineer them and demonstrate that they don't fit these 40 things that these Russian people have identified.
So did
And
you have
then
a team of buddies doing this, or you were instructing your team to do it?
a bit of both. So we did get some sponsorship to do it as well. But yeah, I was um, the we had one of the things I was always keen to do was to get people out of their comfort zone and looking at the world differently. So we had a Friday afternoon club in my section, and that was always about, okay, let's just go and um, yeah, explore something weird, something outside our normal way of looking at things. So sometimes we take turns of choosing topic, but usually I'd be the one that would say, okay, right, let's have a look at this week. And so the TRIS thing was quite a big part of that.
So because some of the big tech companies they say you're allowed to spend 10% of your week
Mm,
uh, doing what you like, basically. But I'm always a
yeah,
bit cynical about these because they're probably working 200% of their week
yeah,
just to do their
yeah.
normal
I mean,
job. Yeah.
yeah. Certainly, when I see that those the companies that do that, so 3M still do it, for example. I think they were the ones that were the most famous for giving people that discretionary time. But I think it's in the original spirit, it was intended to be, just go and explore, you have to play around with stuff. But I think when if the efficiency meme came in,
Yeah, yeah.
then it was deemed, you better tell me what you're doing with that 15% of your time.
Just do. Don't think about what you're doing is
Yeah.
the new mantra. So did you come up with that idea yourself, or were you inspired by a bulletin or something?
Well, I think this, it was definitely our idea, and I think my idea is part of this restless soul thing again, but also, um, trying to inspire people that were working for me to see things differently and, yeah, move the boundaries.
So what sort of boss were you? Did you suffer fools gladly?
Um, I, I don't, well, I mean, I don't think there are fools in Rolls Royce. I think my kryptonite is people who are simultaneously ignorant and arrogant. Um, so there's certainly arrogant people in Rolls Royce, but they tend to be pretty smart, which is a little bit annoying sometimes, but not nearly as annoying as when they're ignorant and arrogant. Um,
Right.
so I think there's suffering fools gladly. I, I I guess some people would say that I don't suffer fools gladly. I love um, ignorant people. That sounds horrible, but young kids, for example, that are in that
Mm,
very
mm.
inquisitive age of life.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that. Um, and yeah, that openness and that wanting to know more about stuff. So I think I was that kind of boss. I think that when I look back at my time at Rolls-Royce, I think the thing I'm proudest of is, of course, yeah, the site where we worked was the one that got closed down.
Yes.
And yeah, I think at the time the decision was made, there were 1,500 people, and the rule was we were going to take one person from each department down to Bristol for continuity. So my section was the only section where everybody was given a job down in Bristol. So I fought pretty hard to say, look, we're doing all this great stuff. Don't kill it now. And so yeah, we all got to move.
Right. So that is pretty awesome, Darrell. So well done for that. And so you moved from this smaller subsidiary factory to Rolls-Royce at the time were then based the big headquarters in Derby and also big presence in Bristol.
Yeah.
So how did that feel?
It was definitely a different culture. I think 1,500 people is big, but you nevertheless everybody kind of knows everybody else. So as a designer, you could go onto the shop floor, talk to the person who's manufacturing stuff for you, and just understand things from their perspective. You know, how can I design this so it's easier for you? At Bristol, that was just not allowed at all. In fact, there was a department that stood in between you as the designer and the
Yeah,
manufacturer
yeah.
that was going to do that job for you. So that was weird, and I didn't like that. But I got really lucky, I would say, because I, I think probably within 6 months of moving to Bristol, I got promoted. So that's when I moved into the chief engineer role, and
So
got to
that
work with
so how many chief engineers were there?
probably at Bristol, probably uh, 4, 6 maybe.
Right, right. And what bit were you looking after?
So again, things that land vertically,
Right. So
and
you were like
and
the technical helicopter head honcho.
at Harrier, AV8B, and then
Oh, the Harrier. You had the Harrier jump jet.
well towards the end. I mean, because I was always R&D and next generation, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was end of Harrier and start of F-35.
Right, awesome. So were you enjoying yourself?
I was, I loved um, the roller coaster ride of being a leader inside the company. I think I never even there. I don't think I really fit. In that you can either be an engineer or you can be a leader. You can't do both of those things. And I said, well, I'm not going to compromise and make that choice. So I'm going to do things my way. And I've always been blessed with really great bosses that have allowed me the leeway to try stuff out.
Right.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
you have been lucky. Yeah,
I
yeah.
certainly had that at Rolls Royce. I mean, the three chiefs that I worked with there were just amazing people. And I think that the end started to come when the um, a new wave of leadership strategy came in, and these people that have mentored me, were suddenly not valued by the company. It's like, well, hold on a minute. These are the smartest people on the planet, and you're now just going to throw them out. Why on earth would anybody do that? And so that kind of sent the message that maybe this engineering stuff's not so important. And and around about that same time, also, I got an offer to go and head up a startup company.
Well, okay.
Uh,
So let's just hold you up there because we need to fit in some tracks. So we're going down the Jazz Road, Mr. Davis, Miles Davis. Tell me some more.
well, I think this here's another bloke that um, yeah, fought the record companies. I think he did it multiple times. I think it's hard to think of a musician who's reinvented a genre as many times as Miles Davis did. And so Jack Johnson comes just after Bitches Brew, which is another of those reinventions. It's in fact the start of jazz rock, but very out there music. And right off the track is 26 minutes, 27 minutes.
Bit of a theme here, Darrell. You like long
Yeah, there is.
tracks.
I did kind of set myself a challenge of saying, okay, can you make a 8 tracks last 2 hours? And I think I've just about done it. But right off is not quite the longest one, but it's
Well,
pretty long.
I was gonna ask you what was your philosophy in choosing these tracks? Because the thing that fascinates me about Desert Island Disc is it's an intriguing problem of how out of this constellation of music you choose a very limited set.
Mm.
And do you go about it just choosing the ones that you love the most, or the ones that are markers in your life, which quite
I,
often you loved it for one time and you hate it later on?
so I think I had a number of thoughts in my head. The first one was it's got to be some which is an enduring thing, so I can listen to it anytime, pretty much. But then the second thing was it should have a link to innovation in some way or other. So I think if it was a different focus away from innovation, then some of the choices might have changed. Um, but
So you treated it as innovation desert discs sort of
it's
thing.
I think if we can reinvent the title, it's going to be Innovation Desert Island.
Right. Well, there's a surprise for the listeners. They didn't see that one coming. So, so here we go. This is Miles Davis right off. Do 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 do. Right, getting shorter, more efficient, Darrell. I've
More
got the
efficient. Well
meme.
done.
Uh, so this is fascinating because I didn't know about this at all. So you got approached by whom for what?
Imperial College in London, who just invented this turbo generator and needed a general manager to basically help them to commercialize it. And so, it was fairly short stint of time because me and academia didn't get on massively well, I would say. Um,
So was it a good technical invention? Was it a sound idea?
it was a sound idea. Yeah, I think so. There's a generator, and you need to drive it with a gas turbine, and
Yeah.
so I think that's why I was brought in. Okay, well, so we need the gas turbine.
Is this sort of
Um,
for filling in the gaps in the base load of electricity stations
it,
or whatever?
it could be, yeah. I mean, so the first one was 50 kilowatts, so it's kind of like a gen set. So for remote locations, for example, emergency power, stuff like that. But the big innovation is it's tiny compared to the big back of a truck
Right, right.
generator that you would normally see. So it was very impressive. The gas turbine part was rubbish. So my first job was okay. Well, this thing that you've been using is just absolutely hopeless. You're not going to commercialize that. So we need to set up some deals with manufacturers that know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd say that's my main contribution of that realism. Um, uh, but I think it was a first learning of just how delusional the education system can be. So they ran this 50 kilowatt turbo generator for the first time, and big celebration. It hits all the targets, and then they all went down to the pub for it felt like about 3 weeks. And I'm there saying, well,
2 weeks.
just because you've run it once doesn't mean to say this is a commercializable product. You just need to be running this all the time
Yeah,
and
yeah,
getting
yeah,
some
yeah.
experience with it. And they just did not get that idea at all. So that's when the cracks very quickly started to appear. They just didn't understand how the real world worked, and I think even worse, they had that arrogance and ignorance thing where they didn't believe me either. So it didn't last very long. So I always describe it as um, the biggest failure of my career. But at the same time, they sold it for 400 million quid. So I
Was that after you
contributed.
left or before you left?
Well, I think it was a big part to play with the deal that I'd made to connect to this gas turbine
Right,
company, and
right.
that's what made it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So yeah, I think I can take credit for that. I think, but yeah, it was a failure by all other accounts.
But it's good to have failures because if you're not, it's like in kayaking. If you don't fall
It's
in a few times, you're not trying hard enough.
yeah, I think you need to know where the boundaries are, and I think we certainly found the boundaries there.
Well, yes, you can't. You need to, push against them or exceed them to really learn that lesson. I think sometimes. So, speeding up a bit, the next track is from somebody called the Swans that I've never heard of.
Oh, they'll change your life, Mike. So this is the longest song on my list. I think 28 minutes, 50 seconds.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so Swans is a very yeah, out there band, probably a no wave band, noise band. Um, but I think what I love about them is Michael Gira, the main guy, the front man,
yeah.
had this second wind when he was about 60. So I think they were pretty okay, mediocre-ish, punky, new wavy band for the first 30 years of his career. And then along comes this surge, this kind of second wind of yeah, just incredibly intense music, very, very loud uh, music. And so the track that I've chosen, Glow Man, probably I think from their probably the best album, this Second Wind, and it's just visceral when you're there live listening to it. So I saw them in Bristol 2015, which is just before the album had come out. But they played this song. In fact, they played for about 2.5 hours, and they played 6 songs in that 2.5 hour period. So they were really yeah, intense moments. And this song, I think the first 4 or 5 minutes it's just one chord, yeah, and
Right.
the whole 28 minutes doesn't really vary from that one chord throughout. So it's a whole different dynamic, I think. So we're at the front of the crowd, really, really intense, loud noise, and yeah, talk about transcendence. Yeah, this was it.
Right. So it did something deeply emotional to you.
Yeah, it did. I think that's. I mean, if you play anything loud enough, then it will do that for you, right? But I think the main reason I've chosen it is I think it's a um, great album, great track. But I love that idea of you get to 60 years old and you
Oh, we all
you
love that idea, Darrell.
you switch on the creativity and you take things to a whole new level.
We're not
There's
done yet, mate.
exactly, yeah. So I've yeah, posts on the wall. I've got one of Michael Gira, yeah, and Swans, and another one of Lucinda Williams, who's another one who gets to 60 years old and
Right.
yeah, just yeah, hits a whole new level.
So I'm still intrigued by the idea of this young band trying to get a record deal, saying that we've got no, we don't make music and we've got no genre. Give us an advance. I think that's pretty cool in itself. So let's have a listen. Swaddy, swaddy, swaddy. Uh, so, uh, how did you leave the startup? It's not the kind of classic running out of money. You were tempted to join greener pastures.
I was yeah, tempted to get out because it was just a toxic environment. It was very clear that there was not going to be a meeting of minds between academia and industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that was a time for let's think about what we're going to do. I mean, it was very tempting to take up Rolls Royce offer to come back there, but I knew I didn't want to do that. Need to make a break, and do something different. So it was the seed, I think, of okay, well, we've got this Trizz stuff. Let's see if we can do something with that. And so I spent 6 months thinking about okay, where are we heading, what we're going to do. And then along
So
comes the
you
University
spent.
of Bath.
Oh, you actually had 6 months off, did you? Not in employ.
It was it was doing thinking stuff and writing book and so on.
So that was very brave. So you didn't publish any books until much later, but you had the
Mm.
seed of them then, did you?
I did. I think it was I think it was a start of a it's a whole discipline that goes with writing, which is you need to understand what the message is. You need to understand how to communicate to people. So I think it was struggling through some of that. Because I think one of the things that Rolls Royce taught me was that if you're the person that turns up with a meeting with stuff written down, then 9 times out of 10, that's the thing that's going to go forward because nobody else is wants to
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
thinking. And so it was a case of saying, okay, well, let's just take that to the next level. Let's just think about, okay, well, what is this communication stuff all about? And what's the structure of a novel, for example? What's this Tris stuff going to do with communicating innovation stuff to people?
Right. So I guess the kind of finding the boundaries and having a bad experience, that's maybe the seeds of you realizing the importance of anthro-complexity. That's a good word for you.
Yeah, it is. So I think it is, and I think it's yeah. I loved the Robert Persick interview that you pointed me towards, and his struggle and writing stuff and also not writing stuff and realizing it was rubbish and trying to think things through. Okay, why is it rubbish? Where do I go next? What do I do with this? And I think he called it the great stymie. I've just been really stuck with something and the crisis that comes from that, and persevering and getting through it.
Well, my teacher on this creative writing course that I'm going to get on the podcast someday, in preparation for the course, she was trying to find quotes from authors and things. And she was absolutely furious because everything she could find would be like, oh, one day I had inspiration. So I wrote this book and it immediately became a bestseller. And all that struggle and all the kind of iterations you go through, it's just been kind of washed away. Uh, so and that's gumption, I suppose. That's a discipline you keep mentioning. It's
Yeah, I think it's the struggle. I think Persig's an extreme example because obviously, spends time effectively in a mental hospital.
well, yes, and that is quite a struggle. So next bit of music, which is some Keith Jarrett guy. I looked him up. He looks quite interesting and looks
Yeah,
like jazzy guy. Tell me.
jazzy. Yeah, I think Lowell George is probably the musician that I've always wanted to be, but close behind probably is Keith Jarrett. But what I love about Keith Jarrett is he'll come out and will improvise a 90-minute concert. So I'm sure he's got some ideas in his head, but there's nothing's pre-written. And the skill it must take to be able to do that is incredible. I think, especially when you listen to some of the recordings afterwards. And just thinking that that was all improvised. And so I think that's where I'd love to be able to get to as a very bad musician at the moment. But I think one of the things that's is weird when people ask me to play something is I can play almost nothing that you would recognize as a song, piece of music. And whenever I can play something, it's because I found it accidentally rather than because I've got the sheet music for it. So where I'd like to get to is be able to improvise interesting music for 90 minutes or however long.
Right. I'm tempted to ask about you sponsoring a MSc student or something, or
Yeah, postdoc.
I'm not.
To try and reverse engineer creativity in music, and moreover to build an AI that could effectively compose interesting music.
Well, I think that's a potential future subject, Darrell. So this is the Keith Jarrett Trio, somewhere stroke everywhere. Do 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 do. So Darrell, where are we in the story now? You've had this bad experience at Imperial University, had a bit of time to yourself, quite a lot of time to yourself, thinking about writing books and tris and developing ideas. So you then joined the University of Bath?
I did, yes, and yes, I think it was an opportunity to explore the academic world again, give it another go, but this time as the insider rather than the commercializer of
It
stuff.
strikes me you're a glutton for punishment, Darrell.
I think I was, but but the the thought of being able to study stuff and publish papers, I was quite attracted to that idea. I think my naivety going into it as well. I thought I was going to enter this environment of great sharing of ideas, and that very quickly got squashed. And as a realization, it's a bit like kids in exams, and nobody's going to share with you what they're
Right,
doing.
their
Um,
IP is there. They've got
yeah,
skin in the game, and they don't want anyone else to know their
yeah,
ideas because they've only got a few of them.
yeah. Yes, yeah, I think that I mean that was very clear. That yeah, and I still get it from a lot of academics. Yeah, I've got no idea what to write about next year, and it's like, well, I've got a catalogue of stuff that I would love to be able to find time to write about.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Uh, so, what was the good side of that experience?
the good side of it was that academic freedom, and it's okay to explore um, and yeah, travel along tangents. And I think the university was very kind to me in terms of allowing me to set up my own business. So I start off there full time, and then gradually go there
Ah,
4 days a week or
okay.
3 days a week.
Very
So
nice.
it was a very gentle entry into the world of consulting. And
Lowers
so
the
yeah,
stakes. So,
yeah,
was that also your introduction to teaching?
I'd say it was. I mean, I think when it's weird when I left Rolls Royce, uh, nobody was interested in the TRIZ stuff when I was there. And it's only after I left that people started saying, "Can you come and teach us some of this stuff?" Um, and whether you liked it or not, at Bath, you're going to do some teaching. And so I was allowed to teach some TRIZ to the final years. I originally said we should teach this to the first years, and I was told that was too dangerous. Um, but let's teach to the final years as an option. And so the discipline of yeah teaching to people who are very smart um, uh, and in learning mode, so they wanted to know stuff. So I loved that, working with the students, and I gave them all mini projects which were completely unofficial, not part of their dissertation or anything. And they I invited people in from outside to come and listen to the presentations, and they were amazing. So I think that really taught me then that if you give people the right frameworks and the right motivation, they'll do just incredible things. Um, but of course, then the downside of that is yeah, the feedback that the students gave at the end of those sessions. The first year and the second year was, "This is brilliant. Why wouldn't we taught this in the first year?" Um, and
Whoops.
that was yeah, exactly. Whoops. Yeah, now you fall foul of all of the lecturers that have been teaching what they think is the important stuff. And so yeah, that didn't do my career trajectory at Bath a lot of good, shall we say?
Well, what did I say in the introduction? Profits get a lot of stick, Darrell. So
Yes.
suck it up, baby. Uh, oh, that's a link. Jackson Brown. Tell me about him.
Well, I I do like Jackson Brown, but it's I was desperate to find a Lowell George song, and none of the Little Feat songs made it. So here's my compromise. So Bright Baby Blues is, I think, my favorite Jackson Brown song. Part of the reason it's my favorite is that Lowell George is on it. So Lowell George sings the harmony vocal, plays the slide guitar on it. But just just a fantastic song, great lyrics, and yeah, I think out of all the musicians that I admire, I think the lyricist that I admire the most is Jackson Brown.
So I'm
So
not particularly familiar with him. I just thought he sounded a bit like Van Morrison, the way he kind of slurs his words a bit.
you could say
But he,
is the LA version of Van Morrison. to some
Oh,
extent,
right.
but I think
But
he's much more Eaglesy,
right, okay, yeah,
soft
yeah.
soft rock.
It's
But I
pretty.
think it's all about it's the lyric. I think with him.
But why didn't any of the Little Feat tracks make the grade? How
I
come
think
your hero has not produced something heroic?
I think it's the innovation thing. So I think I mean there are a couple of little feat tracks we say, okay, well that's incredible. So Rock and Roll Doctor, for example, the actual um, playing of that song. I mean, it sounds really simple, but when you
Ah,
try and play it, it's incredibly difficult to play. I mean, and reading the interviews with the band afterwards, it's like it took us about 3 months to work out how to play this song. Um, but then the lyric is Rock and Roll Doctor, which is kind of like, oh, okay, well, you couldn't have thought of a
right,
better
right.
lyric to go with it. So there's genius in there musically, but lyrically, I think it's just a bit average and a bit ordinary. Um, so I think there were lots of little things
So
like
it,
that
it
where
doesn't communicate to other people who don't have the
no,
knowledge that
so
you do. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm with
so
you.
so so the best way to get Lowell in was through the Jackson Brown route.
Okay, another problem solved. So here we have Jackson Brown, your bright baby blues. Do 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 do. So you were now gaining some success with your new company. I mean, how quickly did that grow to more than just you?
Fairly quickly. I mean, I think we'd always had a network model. So in terms of full-time employees, then in the UK it was slow. But I met my friend Simon de Wolf in Belgium, and he had some money to invest. So we set up a
So
bigger
so
company.
so when did you first meet Simon?
I was at Bath, and he'd come across Triz. So Triz still opens a lot of doors. So he heard about Triz, and he
So
said, "Can I
it's
come and
like
talk
this
to you?"
little kind of Masons club of people who know it.
I think you could think of it that way. It's just horribly cultish in some respects, which is not great. But he'd heard of it because he was doing a PhD in creativity, and so yeah, sooner or later in the creativity world, you're going to encounter Triz. So he came down to Bath, and we spent a day together and really got on with each other. Saw things from a similar perspective. I think he's another person that wants to change the world, and had some money to do it. So we started a company up, opened an office in India, in Bangalore, very quickly. So started to do the patent research that's the original Triz had been based on. So now we could bring it up to date, and then start to get some EU money to support that. So I think at its peak we had about 80 people.
Really? Well, that's
Yeah,
partly because you had a big team out in India who were
yeah,
analysing all these patents.
yeah. There were two teams there. One was analyzing patents, and the other team was the software team. So we're building software tools for some of this stuff. And I know you've supervised software teams in India, so I think the the dawning after a while is that you've got a lot of people, but there's very few of them doing the work. And we had a couple of people who were just amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
and they were kind of shielding 20 or 30 people behind them. And when you realize that, then you think, okay, we need to find a better way of doing things here. But it was, it served a purpose. And in terms of reinstituting the patent research, it was great.
Right. So I am going to not uh, delve into great details of your career uh, in your own company. Uh,
Very
not because I'm not
wise.
interested, but this is by far the longest episode. By the time I put the music in it, it's going to be even longer.
Can
Uh,
make it into 3 episodes, Mike.
oh, that's too novel. No, no, we're not doing that. Right. So, in fact, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to wrap it up and finish off. So, this is your last track, Jennifer Warnes, who
Yeah.
is Time of My Life. That's not Top Gun, is it? No.
No, but a lot of those music, those big movies from the 80s. So Officer and a Gentleman,
Right, right.
those kind of movies. But so this
So
is
I was very
this.
surprised to find her in this list.
So well, I love her as a singer. I also love um, covers of songs where you change sex. So songs written by males, sung by women, and vice
Okay,
versa.
yes.
So
Yeah,
this album is an album of Leonard Cohen songs. So I love Leonard Cohen.
yeah.
I'm so attracted to Leonard Cohen's voice. So here, in many ways, is perfection. You've got his words, her voice, and the opening track is, I think, yeah, I'll say pop perfection. Yeah, amazing performance and great guitar on it. Steve Ray Vaughan, perfect solo, and yeah, let's end with a little bit of perfection.
So here we go. So this is Jennifer Waltz with First We Take Manhattan. Do, 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 taking Manhattan, do, do, do. Right. Actually, my singing is better than the real
It's
tracks,
it's
for
unfortunate
sure.
Leonard Cohen has passed. Otherwise, he'd be phoning you.
So, this is the best bit at the end. So we say, if you only had one choice, Darrell, what would you take?
Oh, um, it's tricky. I'm going to go with Keith Jarrett because I think the somewhere everywhere is um, amazing because it starts off with it's a cover of was the Bernstein Sondheim song,
Okay.
and then it evolves into this amazing improvisation. So you get the best of both worlds.
Yes. Well, I think out of this choice, that's the one I'd take. For
Well
who we
done.
cares? Uh, so, uh, how would you how would you fare on this island? How practical are you?
I think I'd love it. Um, I think um, I'll just look around my office at all the things that I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not doing, and it would be an opportunity to just get all that stuff done. So I think if I knew it was forever, I think I'd struggle. But I think it was for a finite amount of time, and eventually I'm going to get rescued. Then I think I would love it.
But if you had to take 8 hours to make your dinner, would you still love it?
I think, yeah, I think it would involve a lot of relearning or yeah, new learning. So that in itself would be quite interesting. Um, and I think I would fairly quickly work out how to take less than 8 hours to prepare food. Um, yeah, but
Yes,
I
well, you
think
have to catch it first. But anyway,
yeah,
uh,
I can invent all those solutions. That's easy.
I'm sure you
No one through
could.
complexity. It's pure technology.
Right. So, and you're also allowed one luxury.
A Rickenbacker 330.
I'm not even going to comment on that. Uh, actually,
My black Rickenbacker 330. Perfect.
beside the Bible, which might come in handy as for some reasons, you're allowed one book. I'd forgotten about that.
Oh, one book. I'm gonna go with Robert Pirsig, but I'm gonna go with Lila, not Zen, because I think the
Yes,
second
I
book.
didn't actually realise you wrote more than one
Yeah,
book.
I think Lila is for me a better book because he takes the whole idea of quality that step further, and it now becomes dynamic quality, which I think is yeah insanely important.
Right. So we'll have to all have a think about reading that then. So that more or less wraps up our session. Uh, apart from I've got to give you one challenge, Darrell,
One challenge. Oh my
because
God, what's that?
so I've done some extensive market research, and our audience is apparently bored out of their brains by us too. So we need an injection of new blood. So
Yes,
I've been designing the perfect person, and I'm
what's
thinking along the
Frankenstein
lines
or
of Annie, get your gun, Annie Oakley. So I
yeah,
think we want female, perhaps,
good
uh,
idea.
American, because they've got cute accents. Uh, wears a Stetson. Is it a Stetson? A hat? Yep. Chews
Yeah.
tobacco and can rope those cows, whatever they call them.
Okay.
So that's your challenge for the show next week.
I can
We
do
need to
that. I'm
find
not.
somebody who
I'm not.
fits all those criteria.
Okay. The chewing tobacco might be a challenge, but I think I can think of somebody who's way, way smarter and way, way, way more interesting than we are.
Uh, that that would be incredible, Darrell, and totally impossible. So it's bye from Mikey and
Bye from me.
right. Okay, until the next time. Cheerio. That was fun. God, that went on forever.
It went on forever, Mike. We need to edit that